The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly Speaking podcast coming to you on December 11th, 2022 on a Sunday evening. I'm actually playing Dolphins and Chargers in the background here. Second quarter. Chargers lead 10-7. Let's go Miami, obviously. Well, number two team after the Giants. We'll talk about them in a second. Of course, this podcast can be found on all podcast catchers at Stitcher Radio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon. Especially my YouTube page at youtube.com/@EarnestChristian. I was really happy, excited doing this podcast today. My wife is out having a girls' night after work, which is good. It gives me the space to do what I want to do. Whether it's a podcast, whether it's watching a show or watching League Pass or watching this game, obviously too. And I always try to get, any opportunity I can to record a podcast where I have stuff to talk about, especially that I want to get off my chest. I'm gonna always take that opportunity because that is the passion, that is the thing. You want to keep doing the thing you love. You want to keep rolling with it because at the same time, especially something like this, even after 11 years, I still get not nervous, but when I'm especially when I'm doing a solo podcast, I'm always like anxious. Like I get into the studio, I'm preparing to my notes and all this stuff, and also I'm like, okay, why am I nervous, or is it anxious, or whatever it be? Because with me, I want to be able to get what I'm saying out to the masses. Well, how big the masses are for people listening to this podcast. I want to be able to make sure everything I'm saying is clear and fluent. I'm a bit of a fast talker. So for some folks, I might be a little bit like, what? What's he saying? Huh? What? But it's one of those things where, you're always the things you love the most, especially, you tend to get very anxious in a positive way about it, and that's how I look at it, honestly. So today was a fairly productive day for the most part. I didn't really plan on doing anything. I honestly wanted to stay home, watch football, and just relax. One of the challenges here recently with me and my kids is that I'm, as I get older, 9 and 5 years old, it'll be 10 and 6 next year, very soon, April. We're trying, my wife and I, because of our schedules, it's a little tougher because we have very separate schedules in terms of work. We do that because to avoid having a babysitter. So, so for example, for me, I have 3 days off from work. So the only negative with that for me is that none of my days are together. So I'm off Sundays, I work Mondays. I'm off Tuesdays, I work Wednesdays. I'm off Thursdays, and I work Friday and Saturday. Okay, all during the day, all at 9 o'clock in the morning. My wife, however, she works Sundays, off Mondays, works Tuesdays all day, like literally 13, 14-hour shift. 14.5-hour shift, actually. I'm just doing the numbers there. Then she goes to work again Wednesday night, then Thursday day, and then she's off Friday, and then she works a quick 4-hour shift on Saturday just to help out because her job is very busy. So most of the time, other than a couple of nights a week, her and I both have our children by ourselves, and the kids, they need to be productive. They need to. They're growing, they need to get out and, do activities and all this kind of stuff. So today, for example, for me, today being my turn, of course, to be with the kids most of the day. Like I try to do on Sunday, especially too, with football. Like they know I love football. I want to be home, watch my games from 1 o'clock on. So I try to start my day, especially, pretty early with them on Sundays. Try to get a good 3 to 4 hours in of activities, whether it's going to the playground, whether it's going to see my mother, whether it's whatever it is, go out and race, go out and go to the pool, things of that nature. I try to keep them productive and doing activities because they're very wild. These kids, my boys are very active. They want to run around. They want to play tag. They want to go to the playground. They want to, race. They want to do all these things, throw the football around. And that's a natural thing. They're young kids. They need that stimulation. They need that kind of like release to do that. And we have to provide that for them. It's even when you don't want to do it. Even as I want to sit here and relax in my bed and read articles and read books and watch a show or catch them on wrestling or whatever it may be. But this is the sacrifices we make as parents. My wife and I, we do as parents to avoid having to pay extra money for babysitters. But we have to make these sacrifices here on this end too as well. So today I decided to take it to the playground for a little bit for about an hour or so this afternoon, right before the start of the Eagles-Giants game. It was good. We played a little tag and whatnot, and I actually got hurt myself a little bit today because they were chasing me, and I fell on the tennis court where we were playing at nearby the tennis court, and I fell on my ass, and I'm too old for this stuff, man. Even when I run around, I'm feeling it now. I'm tired. I'm exhausted, but like I said, I want to get us in today and do this podcast while I can. So we did that. We had a good time today. We went out to the playground and did that. Came home, by the way, the playground's in my development, so it's like literally minutes, like yards from my house. Came home and put on the Giants and Eagles game, and that was a disaster in itself. The Giants are falling apart now, as I predicted, though. This is my team, but I'm also a realist. And this is why I said 3 weeks ago, when we got off the bye week, we were 6-2, and I said, this is why it's important that those two games against Houston and Detroit were must-wins, because looking at the schedule, they had to bake in all the games that you perceive to be the easiest games of the bunch on the schedule, because after that you came into playing the Dallas Cowboys, you came into playing Washington and Philadelphia now, and Washington again, and Minnesota's on the back end and all that. And now you lose the Detroit game, a game again they fell to at that point to 7-3. You're not feeling bad about it, but you realize that okay, that schedule's gonna be tough. The good news was at the time, there weren't much teams in the playoff picture that you thought would come back and make up games to make this a real playoff race. Well, that's not the case anymore now. All of a sudden, you have to, and we'll get to the second. The Detroit Lions now winning some games here all of a sudden now. Seattle's hanging around. And here's the worst part for the Giants, too. The teams right now that are currently playing, that are vying for playoff position right now, that are on the outside looking in, Seattle and Detroit, both teams have beaten the Giants this year. So they don't have that tiebreaker. So this is why I was saying earlier in the year, it's so important to bake in those wins early. Bake in the Houston win, which it did. You didn't bake in the Detroit win, okay? And then last week against Washington, you had a chance to bake in that win, and you didn't do that. You ended up in a tie. Yes, better than a loss, but still, it was a bad situation now, and now you have a situation now where every game going forward is pretty much a must win. Like if you ask me right now, are the Giants going to the playoffs this year? I'm going to tell you no. There's nothing I see right now that makes me believe that they're a playoff team at all. Washington's playing better than they are right now. I mean, they end up tied. Like, if you ask me now that when they play next week who I'm picking to win that game, I'm going to pick Washington to win that game. Okay, you got Washington coming up. You got Philadelphia coming up. Minnesota coming up. You got Philly in the back end, but you want to hope that Philly game in the back end is not a game they need. The Eagles should have things wrapped up by then, by week 18. You're hoping that game against the Eagles is a game that the Eagles don't need, and right now they're out 2 games against Minnesota. Actually, technically 3 games against Minnesota because virtually the tiebreaker. And you got Indiana also on the back end. So the Giants do have some games they can pluck away. They need to get to 10 wins. 10 wins is the benchmark. To me, I feel better about their chances if they get 10 wins. Because as good as Detroit's playing, and they're playing for good football, they got to run the table pretty much to catch up, to get back in this thing. Same with somewhat Washington to Seattle. They got a big break here. Let's get into that now. Let's get into the playoff picture right now currently in the NFL, because things are getting very crazy. We have now, after this week, we have 4 weeks to go of the season. And we're going to do a podcast this week with Kyle, our boy Kyle Nash, on the show Sooner Game on Tuesday, and discuss the playoff positioning here in the NFL and playoff locks and all that. But I'm going to give you my perspective right now currently, what I believe is let me see here. I'm bringing this on my app, my phone. Currently, So we have this thing could speed up a little bit. It's a little slow today. I don't know why it's being slow today. I don't get that. So right now, if the playoffs start today, the Giants would be in, but they'll be the 7th seed. Washington has currently a tiebreaker over the Giants by virtue of the one divisional win they have over them. Washington did beat Philadelphia this year. Philly's own loss. So let's run down the Week 14 slate real quick. First, see what stood out. Obviously, Eagles dominate here. I think today the Eagles put some distance to themselves and else in the NFC. Like, to me, the only team I really feel that can actually beat the Eagles in the NFC that I feel confident about is the Niners. And unfortunately for them, in their win against Tampa Bay, they lost Deebo Samuel, receiver, and Mr. Everything for the Niners to now they're saying it's an ankle injury now, and the reports we're getting right now as of this recording is that the injury is not as serious as it looked on the field as we thought. We actually thought, dude, I mean, friends of mine were all texting each other, and we all thought it was a torn ACL, which obviously it means curtains for the year. But they're saying it's not as serious. There's nothing broken. It might be a high ankle sprain. He's probably going to miss a couple weeks, obviously. The Niners, I believe, could beat. I believe they're the only team that could beat the Eagles. Granted, at full strength. So that's just that. And the Niners won big against Tampa today. Tampa looked like garbage today again. Brock Purdy, decent game, of course. Did his job. Like I said, I don't think the Niners lose a beat with Brock Purdy, a quarterback. I just don't think he lose a beat. As long as he does his job and turn the ball over and does his thing, everything should be fine. What else here this week? The Bills win another one over the Jets. The Bills are playing better football again in the last couple of weeks now. They've kind of sort of recovered after that little slumping a few weeks ago. The Bengals keep rolling. They beat the Browns this week. Finally, Joe Burrow beats the Browns off the schneid there. How about Dallas almost losing to Houston today? Dallas wins, but wins late. But Houston in that game, oof, Houston. I'll tell you, man. The Texans have had moments this year, even though the record doesn't indicate that they've been kind of frisky on certain weeks of the year. Dallas looking ahead maybe to Philadelphia. Who knows? As I said, Detroit big win against Minnesota. Like I said, I don't trust Minnesota. I already told you guys that. If he Super Bowl, they're not in it for this reason. Detroit's playing very good football right now. Let's see here also. The Jaguars, which honestly didn't surprise me at all. Jaguars beating Tennessee in Tennessee. Not surprised. Tennessee's not that good. The Jaguars are starting to play better football now. Doug Peterson's starting to get those guys playing well. Trevor Lawrence, let's see what he did today. Trevor Lawrence. He had a great game today. He had, close to 400 yards today. 3 touchdowns, no picks. Trevor Lawrence is starting to figure it out finally. This is a team that they watch out for next year. The Jaguars are going to be the team to watch out for next year. I'm telling you right now. I'll be honest right now, without even knowing what moves we made in division going forward, I'm telling you right now the Jaguars will win the AFC South next year. Bold prediction here, coming right now from this microphone. Baltimore beats Pittsburgh without Lamar Jackson. Huntley didn't play all that great, 88 yards, whatever. That's mostly running. It was all about Dobbins and the run game for the Ravens. Like I said, I feel better about the Bengals right now than the Ravens currently. So, but that's just that. I said the Giants, blowing against Philadelphia. Philadelphia looks like the best team in football right now, and they started to put some distance to themselves. Kansas City beating Denver. Russell Wilson gets hurt in that game with a concussion, I believe. KC looked good early. Denver made it a game late, but KC holds on. As I said, the Niners went big against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers and Brady's homecoming. And then the game that, as a Giants fan, you need the help, and they got the help, though, despite the loss today. Seattle losing to Carolina. So Seattle's starting to slip a bit now. I know they won against the Rams last week, but that was a close win against the Rams team that had no one. No Stafford, no Cooper Kupp, no Aaron Donald. And then you see Carolina actually now winning in Seattle in a big win, and that actually helps the Giants in the playoff picture. So right now, if I'm locking teams here right now, for example, in the NFC, Eagles obviously a lock. Vikings will win the division, despite that. They should hold on to the 2 seed, honestly, but the Niners are right gaining on them, of course. The Bucks, look, despite the Bucks being 6-7, they're going to win the NFC South because that division is freaking terrible. Cowboys locked in the playoff, of course, there. And then, of course, Commanders, Giants, Seahawks right now, currently vying for those last 2 spots. It's 2 spots, right, really up for grabs in the NFC. Those 2 wildcard spots, 4 teams really in the race. I mean, you can say Green Bay, but unless Green Bay wins out 5-8, I don't see it happening. Carolina 5-8, their best chances win the division, honestly. Same Atlanta. But it's really a 4-team race for those 2 spots between Washington, the Giants, Seattle, and then now Detroit. Now who's the only game back in the win column. Actually, 2 back in the loss column, 1 back in the win column. So that's the NFC side of things. The AFC locks for me. Buffalo, of course, I think they win the division. Although you'll see that big game against about Miami, I think, next week. Miami has to win this game tonight. Right now, as of recording, they're up 10-7. End of the second quarter, closing the end of the second quarter. Baltimore is still in first place by virtue of the tiebreaker, but I think Cincinnati is right now currently the better team. When they play later in the year, I expect Cincinnati to win that game. That'll be in Cincinnati as well too. Tennessee's 7-6 and winning the AFC South despite poor play as of late. The division is the Jaguars are 2 back. I mean, unless the Tennessee Titans really just flopped the last 4 weeks, which could happen, because they're not consistent. I don't see it happening though, but they should win in the South. That's a lock there. Cincy will be in the playoffs no matter what, whether in the wild card or in the division. Miami will. Let's see the tonight's game goes. Miami goes against the Chargers game. How that goes, we'll check in obviously on Tuesday with Kyle on that. The Jets 7-6. I still feel pretty good about the Jets though. Then you got a couple teams here in the below the Jets. You have the Patriots 6-6. Big game against Arizona tomorrow night. Chargers need to win this game against Miami to stay in the race. Jackson Jaguars. If the Jets keep losing games, man, the Jaguars are going to climb back in this thing. They could. We'll see. That's 2 back. They need help. They need a lot of help. They need to win out. So that's week 14 in NFL in a nutshell. We'll talk more NFL later in the week with Kyle Nash as we move forward. But like I said, I had a good day today. Especially watching the games. Go to my mom's house once the Eagles game was out of reach. The Giants game out of reach. I went to my mom's house with the kids, and we, had a good time watching the games, watching a little Red Zone. My brother came over with his kids and all the, the cousins, my kids, his kids all played around. Had a good time, burnout. And like I said, they, keep them productive, and that's what they did. We made them play with each other, and then they all had fun, run around the house, and, just playing games and all that, and all burnt out. Came home tonight, they fell asleep, and that's one of the things we're trying to stop doing with the kids now, especially too. Like, we've the last year or so, we've been giving them a lot of melatonin because they have a hard time sleeping, specifically my youngest son. But now we're trying to wean him off of melatonin now because it's not really healthy as we're reading now. And I like to read and learn things. And apparently melatonin, if you give too much melatonin to kids, it could affect their hormones. So we're trying to wean them off of that now, and use more natural gummies and actually we want them to actually have their natural melatonin to be used when they try to go to sleep or not at nighttime. But we'll see. Like tonight was cool because tonight was they were productive, so they were naturally tired. They came home, they ate dinner, took their baths, and they were asleep within honestly 15-20 minutes of hitting the bed. So I mean, in that aspect, job well done by me. Job well done by me. So anyway, but like I said, we'll talk more NFL this week with Kyle Nash. It's been a couple weeks to be on the podcast. We'll talk about that on Tuesday, and we'll discuss just see how that plays out. So anyway, that's what I'll talk about here. Hope you guys enjoy the World Cup, man. I've been enjoying the World Cup. Now the World Cup for me, it's been rough to watch it. Because of my schedule, the only time I really get to watch the World Cup in a way that I can actually, I can't even say focus, is at work. Because, number one, the games are on early in the morning because of the time where Qatar is at. Qatar is at least 8, 9, 10 hours ahead of us. So a lot of those games start 10 a.m. here. And most of those days I'm at work already. So I'm catching all these games at work, not at home, and all that. Obviously the U.S., they had a nice slow run before they got knocked out of the field of 16. It's funny. I like soccer. I really wish I can get more into soccer. Premier League, even MLS. But again, it's finding the time to watch it. Where can I fit that into my schedule? I already watch League Pass. NBA basketball League Pass. For example, I want to get back to college basketball this year. But it's like, where can I find the time to watch college basketball? You're sharing time. Like right now, this year, for example. Now, granted, college football is ending now. Like, we're at the end of, I don't care about bowls necessarily. New Year's Six is all I care about. Bowl season, I don't give a crap about, honestly. So I get my Saturdays back, actually. Saturdays are actually now, for me, I get back that night to watch, that day also to watch any streaming or anything else I want to watch. But right now, there's still NFL football down the stretch, playoff-ish pennant, as I call it. You still have basketball I watch every night. Especially the Heat game is on. I'm watching Heat game every night, of course, when they're on. And then, it's one of those things like where do you fit in my schedule? I don't know where you fit it. So, but like I said, the World Cup every 4 years, I wish it was actually more common than that. I wish World Cup was at least every 2 years, honestly. But the drama and the passion in these countries and these fans, it's so much fun to watch. And then watching on Friday was the best. Watching the penalty, there was 2 games in penalty kits. I think it was Brazil against who they played. The Brazil played Morocco. I can't remember who they played exactly, but the Brazil game when they lost and down in the wire, and then of course the Netherlands game also too, down in the wire, against Argentina. I mean, and I was watching it at work too, especially, and everybody's into it. The whole place is like into it and watching it, and that's like totally just like mesmerized by the TV. It was just fantastic soccer, to watch, and it reminds you like there's a bigger world out there. I know like soccer is still not one of the big 4 here in this country. Obviously, you got the NFL, which is king, of course, the NBA, Major League Baseball, and then the NHL. And soccer is like probably, I would dare say, a distant 5th, honestly, if we're being real. Like, we don't even see soccer being talked about on the mainstream stations here on ESPN or FS1 and none of that stuff. And I wish it was. I wish it got more attention. And I every 4 years we watch the World Cup and people get into it. It's like, I always think, maybe this is a turning point. Maybe they get into it. And then after the World Cup's over, our attention span is so short that by the time we get through this, no one's going to care anymore. And it sucks. It really does. So, but, from as much of the World Cup I've been able to watch, it's been fun seeing the passion, seeing this, the drama. You see Cristiano Ronaldo leaving the field after losing on Saturday, and very emotional. There's a real tears, real emotion. You don't really get a lot of that in the sports today in American sports. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm not trying to sound anti-American, of course, but like when you play for a country, it's a little bit. It's a different element to it. There's a different level of dedication and know-how and whatnot. So I don't know. I'm just enjoying the World Cup as I could. Like I said, if I can find a time to fit MLS in my schedule, if I find time to fit Premier League in my schedule, I would. I just don't have the time. I just don't have the time, really, honestly. And when I take in content, it's not the sports I'm watching. I still watch my news. I still read. I still watch politics and political stuff, and still watch my my shows I want to watch also too. Whether it's TV shows, movies, all that. So it's one of those things where like, find a time for me, and I'll if you had 26 hours in a day, maybe those 2 hours extra, I can throw it in there and watch it. But I just don't have the time anymore. I really just don't. But the big story, of course, coming out of the World Cup right now, and a very sad story coming out of the World Cup, is the mysterious passing of former Sports Illustrated journalist Grant Wahl, who mysteriously passed away Friday night. Supposedly he had bronchitis. That's what they're saying, and it got worse throughout the week. I guess he had not attended some games in the recent days prior to his death. And Grant Wahl is a very, very well known sports journalist here. He covers soccer, but I know about Grant Wahl for years. In fact, he's the guy that wrote the LeBron James Chosen One story, which I believe was the year that LeBron got drafted into the NBA, 2004. And 2003. Sorry, 2003. Do you think I know that, actually? But, he's been a well-known journalist for a long time. You guys know I love following sports media, especially, too. And some people that, they're all interwebbed and interchange, and people are doing colleagues and all that. Jeff Pearlman's and all of the people I follow, the the media folks I've followed for years, all devastated by the loss of Grant Wahl. But it's also mysterious because, Qatar obviously is a very different set of rules there, different, government, the way they set things up. It's a Muslim country. And Grant Wahl last week, when the start of the World Cup, either last week or 2 weeks after that, before that, had got rejected from entering the stadium at a game because he was wearing a pro-LGBTQ T-shirt. He was not allowed to enter wearing that T-shirt to promote pride. And I remember seeing that at the time. I remember saying to myself, well, I appreciate him wanting to be that guy to, be on the front lines and for justice and equality and all that. But it's kind of scary to be doing that in a country that that their rules are different from ours. There is no freedom of speech in the same way we have it here in America. So I remember saying to myself that was not the smartest idea. Again, I'm not saying he shouldn't do that. But again, they play different rules, And so when I saw that he'd been very critical to, especially in addition to what he wore, in addition to that, then also being very critical in his Substack of the conditions in Qatar that's happening outside the World Cup and how things are run there with the government and all that stuff. And then hear that he dies on Friday. You can't help but wonder that was there an inside job, if maybe someone, spiked his drink or, poison. I don't know. I don't want to speculate more than that. But at the same time, you can't help but wonder. The guy was literally tweeting 5 hours before he passed away. And it's just weird. It's really, really, really weird. So the loss was obviously felt by many. Again, one of the more popular and more well-known sports journalists of our time. But I'm not trying to laugh here, but I saw that story. I saw the news of that on Friday night, and my first reaction was that I'm not that surprised. It didn't shock me, because what we saw 2 weeks prior to that, and what he's been saying in a Substack in the days leading up to it, it didn't shock me. Because in my mind, unfortunately, I was he sick? Did he get sick naturally and things happened? I'm sure it's possible. But the more you think about it, it's like, I don't know, man. That sounds way too convenient. And again, I don't want to speculate more than I have to and we need to. And I hope there's an actual investigation into what happened. But given the fact that all this happened on their turf, especially, I have a hard time believing that we're going to hear the truth. That's just me. I could be wrong. People can hear this thing. What are you saying? Look, things happen for a reason. Not in this case, but what I mean. Things happen, and then we don't know why. We just don't know why. I don't trust the powers that be. Especially somewhere where it's not on your turf. You're critical of the government. You're critical of the conditions there. I mean, how can you not think it's something other than an inside job? That's all. I don't know. But I pray for his family, his wife especially too, who says she's under shock. The entire community under shock. I'm not. I'm really not shocked, because again, you're in another country where you're being very bold about things that they take very serious and they don't take very lightly. And I don't know, man. I really hope it. I want to think that it happened, natural causes happen here, but I have a hard time believing that. I really do. Okay, before I go, one more thing when I get out of here. So my wife and I, the last couple of days, have been trying to prepare a budget for 2023. We try every year. We get to the holidays, and after we get shop for the kids and all that good stuff, and prepare for the holidays. We start thinking about, okay, what's next? What's our goals for 2023? Do we have any plans to travel anywhere? Do you want anything to save up for? And we work on, basically a 2023 budget, if you will. That's what responsible adults do at ages 42 and 35, right? And we were talking about things in our budget currently that, obviously with inflation, you have to think about cutting back on things, and where else can you cut back on and save money? Because I think at this point we went through our finances, and we were thinking about, there's really nothing else we can do really to cut back on. Everything's growing. We can make changes to the lifestyle, but we already live a pretty simple lifestyle as anyway. Especially me, I don't go out much, and I don't do a lot that requires extra, funds to that. All the things I enjoy, streaming services and things of that nature. I still have a gym membership I haven't used in a long time, but I do plan to start using that more, going forward. So we were talking about this, and we went through our itemization of our bills, and the topic of streaming services came again. How many things are we streaming now? How many things we're paying for that we're streaming? So we did the math. We did the math, and because her and I have a lot of things we do. We have, obviously. So to going through what I do have, what I pay for. And this is, and I was talking to her too about this, and I was telling thank God for my mom, because my mom and I, she uses some of our stuff, and in return we use some of her stuff. So we use her, for example, we use her Apple Plus, we use her Apple TV rather, we use her that we use her Paramount Plus, which also has Showtime involved in it too, which I thank God I watch Showtime pretty often. We also use our Netflix. And in return, she uses our Peacock. She uses our Hulu, our HBO. What else does she use? I think that's it. So if it wasn't for her, sharing costs with me and at least give her access to the things she has, our stream bill could be bordering $200. But we actually did the math, and right now we only pay a little over $100 on streaming service currently right now. And we did the math. We went through it, and it was saying, what things do we not need? What streaming service could we do away with? So the ones we pay for example, as I go through my notes here real quick, we pay for Peacock. I pay for YouTube, as I explained to you guys a couple weeks ago on the podcast. YouTube is big for me because I use YouTube as a way to digest daily content for sports or politics in bite size, and I listen to it every day. So I use YouTube. I pay for Hulu, which is bundled with my HBO, so that's about $35 a month, combined. Which I found out too. Also, that there was a apparently there's a tax also. Well, also Disney Plus. Also, I pay for Disney Plus as well too. But also there's also like a $6 tax that we pay, also state tax, not state tax, but it's a tax that if you're streaming certain something. We called the other night to find out why we're getting charged $6 extra, even though we have the bundle for ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Disney. We found out that that $6 extra was because of there's a tax in Florida we're paying for, a streaming tax. Weird shit. The things you find out, right? I pay for Amazon Prime. What else? Oh, I pay for NBA League Pass. That's only 6 months of the year. I also pay for Bally Sports Plus to watch Miami Heat games. That's also only 6 months of the year as well. So we pay about $107 a month, roughly. We kind of did the math, and the things we actually pay for, $107. Not including Apple Music, which is $15 a month or $16 a month now. And I think that is it. I think that's all the things we pay for. So it's not too bad. But also, at times, if I decided to pay for Major League Baseball at bat, out in April or May, that'll be another $25 I'll be paying for. So, but we're trying to figure out, is there a way to cut back on? And the answer is really no, because between her and my kids, and of course myself, we all use this stuff. Like, there isn't a stream service that we pay for that we don't use on a semi-regular basis. I use, obviously, League Pass and Sports Plus daily. I watch League Pass pretty much almost every day. Okay, my kids use Disney Plus every day. Hulu is used fairly often. HBO is used pretty often in my house too, especially between watching Bill Maher every week and John Oliver, and also the amount of shows they have on their platform. So there's really no way for us to cut back on there because we use everything. Which is why I'm so thankful my mom has the. And obviously, I don't want to hear I don't want anybody to hear this, like people to hear this. But some small podcast, they're not going to check and see this guy that has hundreds of followers in this podcast to see if he's stealing passwords from his mother. But there's really no way for us to cut back on it unless I want to start watching sports. Like, the only thing you cut back on it is just like making sacrifices. Like, okay, I'll cut League Pass because whatever, but I use that, and this is the thing with me also too. Like, I don't mind paying for things if I'm using it, or if we're using it. I tell my wife all the time, I don't mind paying for things as long as we're using it, and that's it for me. That's what it comes down to for me at the end of the day. So, I don't think there's anything else we can cut back on this point. We just have to bear with it, and then like I said, the League Pass for me, Bally Sports Plus, it's only 6 months of the year, so I'll pay for that. Bally Sports Plus, for example, I'm paying $20 a month. My best friend used to have when he lived in Miami, he would give me access to Bally Sports through his cable, and I will authenticate it, on cable. But then he moved away to the west coast of Florida, and he's out of the region now, so he doesn't have it anymore. The good thing also too is NBA League Pass cut their price in half this season from $27-$28 a month to now $15 a month. Thank God for that. So at least it could absorb some of the cost of adding Bally Sports Plus. Be able to watch the Heat games every day or whatever they're on. So I mean, there's really no way for us to really cut back on streaming at all. I mean, first world problems, right? I know, right? So anyway. That's about 37 minutes of podcast time. I think that's enough for me. I'm tired. It's still halftime of this Dolphin game. They were down 17-7. Hopefully they come back win this game. But again, I am on Twitter at eJefferson7, Earnestly Podcast, across all podcast catchers. We will talk soon. Stay tuned for the next one. Later. Thank you.